Hey there guys, welcome back to my channel. Hope you all are doing fine dandy fandy today. In today's video I'm going to talk about my experience as I usually do on this channel. Something that I think might be helpful for kind of like the future channel that this will become in the future. That someone could like watch this as one of the early videos that I've done, and then maybe they might feel some relief or some kind of good vibes from it, or feel that they can relate to it. Or for the odd subscribers and the viewers that I have, maybe they'll feel them same feelings now. So I'm just gonna kind of speak about my experience, and maybe someone else might have a similar one, so I'm going to talk about that. So in today's video I'm going to talk about basically a spiritual path that I've kind of been walking on and off this past couple of years, in my experience with spirituality versus religion. So I personally don't identify as religious because I see religion as more of a system of control and a historical thing that has been played to basically create division. Obviously, not all people who follow religion are like that. I would say most people who would say that they're religious don't identify with it to do with that. But if you look in history, that is most of the wars that went on, either because of religion or because of politics. So, for that reason, and because, you know, religion does not like gay guys or gay girls or anyone that's like alternative genders or alternative sexualities, you know, they quote scriptures that don't really mean anything, but they think it's like showing proof of being, you know, anti-us. And they think that it's justified when it's actually not. So because of that reason, that's why I'm personally not religious. But I've always had this fascination and intriguement with nature, with witchcraft. Like, I've loved witches ever since I was a kid. You know, I watched Charmed, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Ultimate Book of Spells when I was a kid, and I loved, like, the main witch girl that was in there. Something about it I just, like, really loved. So that's one of the practices that I follow, and I want to talk about it. I know that everyone personally isn't like this. Some people are religious, and as far as you're not using your religion to spread negativity or force people to believe in what you believe in when they don't want to, I'm very much of the wavelength of live, let live. Or some people might be kind of atheist, agnostic, and that is just as fine. You know, it's a free world, you do you. We should all have that mindset, in my eyes, of just live, let live, and you do you. But that is kind of not my experience. So, I had kind of an environment when I was in school where I was in a Catholic environment, and, you know, they're very strict when it comes to some things, and a lot of their ideologies I just didn't agree with. So then I left there, obviously at 16, and then about a couple of years later I delved into different spiritualities. Like when I mean a tiny bit, I literally just mean like I dove in just a tiny bit, but I delved into a bit of Hinduism, the Jewish faith, tiny bit of the Muslim faith, Buddhism. And Hinduism and Buddhism I actually quite liked, but I didn't agree with it mostly. But out of all of the other spiritualities and religions, Buddhism and Hinduism are one of the chillest ones I've had, and actually are the ones that aren't as strict and ones that aren't as kind of in your face and you have to do this kind of thing. Like I say, everyone has a story. Some people just aren't connected to a higher power, and that's all good. I'm not here to say you should be like me, because I so don't believe in that. So, as long as you're living your life, minding your own business, and spreading positivity, or not at least spreading negativity, that's all I really want for the world and want for other people. So, yeah. So, after college, my second or third year, I started reading more on paganism and Wicca and witchcraft. Up until that point, I didn't know that witches really existed. I thought it was just a figment thing on TV. But pagans and witches are real. So I started looking into what they follow, what they believe in, if they have any rules, and also if they like gay guys or if they just have no opinion on them. And pagans and witches tend to be very alternative themselves, either with their looks, their mindset, or their personality. And, alternative is very me. So that kind of caught my attention straight away. And the fact that they said that pagans and witches believe in the practice of nature, worshipping in it, the same way as like you would worship a god, that's something that I found fascinating. Because to me, God is this thing that we've made up. But it can come from something that was real. So when we think of God and Jesus, most people think of a white man who has a long beard and a mustache and says things are sins for just for acting naturally and acting on natural impulses. But I don't believe that that's real, and I never have. So some witches and some pagans do believe in a higher being, but they believe in a higher being that's closer to nature. So I've heard a lot of them say that they believe in a god and a goddess. So a god is quite similar to like the Jesus person, but instead of coming from the god, he's like an earthly god. And then there's a goddess who is also earthly, and she's known as like the Great Mother, the mother of all mothers, which I, again, don't believe in, but if I was to believe in a structure, physicalness of a higher power, I would recollect a god and a goddess, because it's both. And just focusing on a god to me is like a form of sexism, so yeah. Like I say, I personally don't believe in a god and a goddess because my brain doesn't work that way. But obviously, I believe in nature because nature's all around us, and the fact that there's this practice where people worship nature is something that I really like. I didn't have to think about it because nature's, like I say, is all around us, and it's just about paying attention to nature and almost giving thanks to nature and connecting with nature. And I started doing that here and there. I still do here and there every now and then. And I find it really comforting for me. And I do feel that connection. Some people might say what I'm feeling is God, but like I say, my brain doesn't go there and I don't see God. I see nature and I feel nature. I was always the kind of person who would hug a tree and not be phased by it. I remember there was this one time when I was in school and I was with these guys. We were kind of fooling around and doing dares, and someone had dared a guy to hug a tree as a joke, and obviously, in society that's weird. And they were like, "Oh, he actually did it," and then they dared me to do the same thing, and I was the only one who was like, "Sure, like no problem." I hugged a tree, liked it, and, had no shame. And I was always that kind of kid who, liked nature and has no guilt or embarrassment for connecting with it. So my personality is definitely the typical pagan mindset, and I think that's why I was drawn to it from quite an early age, about 18. But obviously everyone's path is different, and that's good. But I just wanted to make this video to explain why I like this path and why other people might like it, especially if you are LGBTQ. So the reason why I mention LGBTQ is because all of the other religions and spiritualities that I've kind of looked into either has a thing against it, even though the scriptures aren't against it, or they're just not bothered by it, or they don't mention it. Where in paganism and witchcraft, there is quite a high LGBT presence there within the communities, and that is because paganism and witchcraft is one of the few spiritualities that don't have a thing against LGBTs, but also, I wouldn't say praises them, but they see it as a plus if you are, because it means that you have an extra experience that the average person doesn't. And also, it will show that you obviously have a history when it comes to alternative lifestyle before you even get to know what the followings and the teachings are. In paganism, there is many different beliefs, structures, and types, just like there is with witchcraft. There's not one type of pagan, and there's definitely not one type of witch anywhere. It can go from Gardnerian witchcraft to Alexandrian witchcraft to eclectic witchcraft, which is the practice that I have. It can be Druidry witchcraft. There's loads of others, but I personally don't know the other names. So, something that also makes paganism and witchcraft a good tool is that it's a practice, for one thing. So it's something that you grow, and it's something that you start off with not knowing, but then you get to know either your own experience and make up your own rules, or you get to hear the experience of others. So it's something that grows. It's something that is not forced on you, that is like, you must know this passage or this rule within like so and so time. It's literally your choice, your path, your connection, and your rules, which is obviously the best for anyone. So with paganism, there's only about 3 rules or 2 rules that I'd say that overall we follow, and that is basically the original standard of karma, which is whatever you send out will come back to you times 3, which is something that I feel like everyone should believe in, even if you're deeply religious or if you're not religious. Because if you believe that whatever you send out comes back to you times 3, then you're never going to hurt anyone ever again, because then you'll get hurt 3 times as much. And even before I knew what karma was, I believed in that mentality. That's why I've always been, nice, fair, and a good listener, because of that. And also just because that's how I naturally was. Another one is basically the shall none do what he will rule, which is kind of a translated version of you should let people do what they want, think how they think, and do what they do, as long as it doesn't hurt themselves or others, then it should be allowed, and there should be no issues or no wanting to change that. So that's one of the reasons why pagans either love LGBT people or just aren't bothered with them, because obviously just being a simple gay, lesbian, bi, or trans person does not harm anyone. So because it doesn't violate that rule, they see it as a thing to not think about or a thing to admire. Then there's this other one, which I would say it's mostly witches that follow this, but some pagans who don't identify as witches can also follow this, is basically the rule of not messing with the spiritual realm. So, again, I understand that not everyone believes in this, but for people that do believe in the spirit realm or believe in like dark magic or light magic, there is certain lines that you do not touch. For example, the dead, love, relationships, and family heritage. That is something that I've learned personally, that you can't change someone's history, you can't change someone's feelings, you can't change someone's past. So if you are a person that's like me who has tried to do it, it's actually backfired horrendously to the point where it's made me learn a lesson. So I wanted to kind of say that. So that's another rule. So I just wanted to make this closing statement, and then I'm gonna say goodbye for today. So mostly the reason why I'm making this video today is because a lot of people who are religious but are also LGBTQ unfortunately do suffer with a lot of flack, because we get conflated with sins that shouldn't be conflated with when it comes to just us existing. Like, I've heard loads of people in real life and on YouTube say that just existing as a gay individual or a bi individual or a trans individual is the same thing as being like an alcoholic or a substance abuser, which obviously is just so wrong. Like, one causes harm, one doesn't. So I feel like we just put up with it, or we're sick of it, but at the same time, it's something that we're not used to. But because we believe in God and because our friends and family believe in God, we just kind of assume that that's how we should be treated, where I'm here to say that that is actually not how someone should treat you, because it's one based on a lie or misinterpretation, and also it just shouldn't be how someone treats you. So there is a difference between being religious and being spiritual. And I think it's best for LGBT individuals to have an experience of the spiritual side, to move from the doctrine of religion, but also to maintain their faith. Okay, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. It was a tiny bit of a long one, and I did rant a lot with this, but like I say, I wanted to say my experience and my thoughts. So, even with what I just said about how it's mainly about LGBTQ people that aren't in that community could also relate to it. Like, if you're a woman and you've had to deal with purity culture, you can like move from that and still be spiritual. Like, you can be anyone and deal with religious flack and then just go to the spiritual end of things. So that's what I wanted to say. If you like this video, comment down below, subscribe. If you feel like you relate to this, or if you have a story that you want to tell me, you can you could tell us in the comments down below, or you can let me know on my Twitters down below as well. I'll link them. And then my other YouTube channel where I review albums that I've got, and I say the favourite songs from the album, and then I suggest it to other people. So, love you guys.